For more than 150 years, a simple fact held true in the United States. If you were born on American soil, you were an American citizen. This principle, known as birthright citizenship, was a cornerstone of the nation's identity. It was seen as a promise enshrined in the 14th Amendment, a guarantee that this country was a place of new beginnings, where the circumstances of one's parents did not define a child's future. It was a golden ticket, a fundamental part of the American dream that drew people from all over the world. This bedrock idea offered a clear, unambiguous path to belonging. But today, that long-held certainty is fracturing. A seismic shift in the nation's legal and political landscape is challenging this foundational promise. What was once taken for granted is now a source of deep anxiety and confusion for millions. The idea that being born in America automatically makes you a citizen is no longer a guarantee. Instead, it has become a contentious issue, subject to political orders and varying interpretations of the law. A baby's future, their very identity, may now depend not just on being born in the U.S., but on where in the U.S. they are born. This dramatic change did not happen overnight. It is the result of a calculated, long-term political strategy that has finally found its moment. The debate over birthright citizenship has simmered for years, fueled by heated arguments over immigration. Supporters of change have long argued that the 14th Amendment was never intended to grant citizenship to the children of those in the country without legal permission. They see it as a loophole, a magnet for illegal immigration that needs to be closed. Now, a confluence of executive action and a landmark court ruling has turned this debate into a stark reality. The consequences are unfolding in real time across the country. Families are being thrown into a state of legal limbo. Hospitals and state agencies are scrambling to understand new, confusing directives. The very definition of what it means to be an American is being contested in courtrooms, in state legislatures, and in the halls of power in Washington. The golden ticket of American birth is, for many, being questioned, and the answer is no longer clear. This is a story about more than just a legal doctrine. It is about the identity of a nation and the lives hanging in the balance. The catalyst for this crisis was a monumental decision from the U.S. Supreme Court on June 27, 2025. In a 6-3 ruling, the court fundamentally altered the power of the judiciary. It declared that federal judges can no longer issue nationwide injunctions, which are court orders that block a government policy across the entire country. Instead, courts can now only provide relief to the specific people or groups who filed the lawsuit. In her dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor issued a stark warning, writing that this decision leaves no right safe and risks granting unchecked power to the executive branch. This ruling opened the door for President Trump's Executive Order 14160. Signed earlier in the year, the order had been blocked by lower courts, using the very nationwide injunctions the Supreme Court just eliminated. The order directly targets the long-standing practice of birthright citizenship. It directs federal agencies to deny citizenship to children born in the U.S., to undocumented immigrants, and to individuals on temporary visas, such as tourists or students. The administration argues that the 14th Amendment's phrase "subject to the jurisdiction thereof" was never meant to include the children of non-citizens who owe allegiance to a foreign government. With the nationwide injunctions gone, the executive order was suddenly unleashed. The Supreme Court's decision included a 30-day delay, but that deadline is now approaching. As of July 27th, the order is set to take effect in any state not currently protected by a specific ongoing lawsuit. This created an immediate legal and political firestorm. While the Supreme Court did not rule on the constitutionality of birthright citizenship itself, its decision on injunctions effectively allowed the president's challenge to move forward in a significant portion of the country, bypassing the judicial roadblocks that had previously stood in the way. Critics, including Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, warned that this new reality could lead to an imperial presidency, where a president could enact legally dubious policies, knowing that opponents would have to fight them state by state in a slow, expensive, and piecemeal fashion. Civil rights groups, once able to halt a controversial policy with a single court victory, now face the daunting task of filing dozens of lawsuits across the country to protect the rights of individuals affected by the order. The judicial earthquake has reshaped the battlefield, and the fight over citizenship has entered a new and uncertain phase. The immediate result of these developments is an unprecedented and deeply fractured America. The nation is now split into two blocks: creating a patchwork system of citizenship. In an estimated 28 states, including Texas, Florida, and Mississippi, Trump's executive order is poised to take effect. In these states, a child born to an undocumented mother or a parent on a temporary visa will not automatically be considered a U.S. citizen. Their birth certificate may not be enough to secure a social security number or a U.S. passport. Their future is instantly clouded with uncertainty. On the other side are approximately 22 states, including California, New York, and Illinois, which are part of active lawsuits challenging the executive order. In these states, local court orders are expected to temporarily block enforcement of the policy. For now, a child born in Los Angeles or Chicago to the same parents would still be recognized as a U.S. citizen, just as they would have been for the past 150 years. This stark division means that a baby's claim to American citizenship now depends entirely on the geographic location of their birth, a concept alien to modern American law. This division creates a host of legal and logistical nightmares. What happens if a family from Texas whose U.S.-born child is not recognized as a citizen moves to California? Will that child suddenly gain citizenship rights? What about a family from New York that travels to Florida for a vacation, where the mother unexpectedly gives birth? The lack of a single national standard invites chaos and raises profound questions about equality under the law. Some states are already pushing back. Illinois, for instance, passed emergency legislation declaring that any baby born within its borders will be treated as a citizen, setting up a direct conflict between state and federal authority. Supporters of the executive order welcome this new reality. They see it as a necessary step to enforce immigration laws and restore what they believe is the original meaning of the 14th Amendment. They argue that states should have the right to align with federal immigration enforcement priorities, and that a uniform national policy that grants birth tourism citizenship is unsustainable. From their perspective, this patchwork system is a temporary but necessary phase in a larger campaign to force the Supreme Court to finally make a definitive ruling on the matter, and, they hope, end birthright citizenship for good. Away from the high-stakes legal arguments, the impact of this new reality is being felt in the most personal of ways. In hospitals across states where the executive order is set to take effect, confusion and fear are rampant. Reports are emerging that some hospital administrators, anticipating the new rules, have already begun asking expectant parents for their immigration documents and visa status before issuing birth certificates. This practice is creating a climate of fear, with some undocumented mothers reportedly avoiding hospitals altogether, risking their health and the health of their unborn children to avoid official scrutiny. This confusion extends to schools, state DMVs, and social service agencies. How does a school district enroll a child who was born in the United States but now lacks the documentation to prove citizenship? Can this child access public education, a right guaranteed to all children in the United States regardless of status? State officials are being inundated with questions they cannot answer, as they are caught between old laws and new, ambiguous federal directives. Immigration lawyers and advocacy groups are overwhelmed with calls from terrified families who fear their United States-born children could be rendered stateless, with no country to call their own. For these families, the consequences are immediate and devastating. A child denied citizenship at birth faces a lifetime of obstacles. They cannot vote, may not be able to work legally, and could face deportation from the only country they have ever known. The emotional toll is immense. Parents who believed they were giving their children a better future by having them in America are now watching that future dissolve into a bureaucratic nightmare. The anxiety is palpable in immigrant communities, where families are making desperate choices about where to live, where to give birth, and whether to stay in the country at all. The human cost of this policy is a central argument for its critics. They point to the chaos and suffering as proof that challenging birthright citizenship is not just legally questionable, but also cruel and unworkable. They argue that creating a two-tiered system for children born on the same soil is fundamentally un-American. It punishes children for the actions of their parents and undermines the stability of communities. The stories emerging from hospitals and homes across the country paint a picture of a policy that is not just an abstract legal change but a source of profound and widespread human distress. The battle over Executive Order 14160 is more than just a legal dispute. It forces a national reckoning with a fundamental question: what does it mean to be an American? For generations, the answer was tied to a set of ideals and a clear rule: birth on United States soil. Now, that definition is being rewritten. Supporters of the new policy argue that citizenship should be based on allegiance and legal consent, not the location of one's birth. They contend that a stricter definition is necessary to protect national sovereignty and the integrity of the law. This is a win, they say, for an America that decides who belongs. Critics, however, see this as a dangerous departure from the nation's core values. They warn that the attack on birthright citizenship will not stop with the children of undocumented immigrants or temporary visa holders. They fear it could be expanded to target other groups, such as the United States-born children of legal permanent residents, green card holders, or asylum seekers. The ultimate goal, they claim, is to dismantle the very principle of automatic citizenship and replace it with a system where the government has more power to grant or deny belonging, potentially based on heritage or other criteria. The legal fight is far from over. Civil rights groups and a coalition of states are filing new lawsuits, including national class action suits, to challenge the constitutionality of the executive order head-on. But without the tool of the nationwide injunction, this will be a long, arduous, and expensive war of attrition fought in courtrooms across the country. The next major battle is already scheduled, with oral arguments in a new consolidated lawsuit set for this August. The outcome will have profound implications for the future of American law and society for decades to come. This is a moment that demands attention. The rules that define who belongs in this country are being changed before our eyes. The outcome will affect millions of lives and shape the character of the nation for generations. Whether you see this as a necessary correction or a betrayal of American ideals, the stakes could not be higher. The debate over a single clause in the 14th Amendment has escalated into a fight for the soul of America. It is a fight about who we are, who we want to be, and whether the promise of America is for everyone born here, or only for a select few.